Morning.
Morning, Greg. How are you?
Not too bad. I've got
Good,
my
good.
coffee. I'm feeling semi-perky.
Semi-perky. I mean, actually, on your level, that's actually surprisingly good. I think that might be almost perky to most people.
How about yourself?
Oh, I'm excellent. I'm perky. I'm very perky.
Perkier than Perkins.
Yeah, perkier than Perkins. No, I'm good, actually. Everything's all right. I had a lovely weekend and feel very well rested. Still covered in shite and paint and filler and all sorts of stuff. Because it turns out
the joys of owning a studio.
Oh man, isn't it? Do you know what? I'd completely forgotten about this because the initial build takes forever, but then when it's done, and you pretty much never need to do anything ever again. But I had completely blanked out from when I did my first studio. I had completely blanked out how long and arduous and just slow the whole process is. Like it took me a week to get desk chairs in. And now I've put some desks in, but they're not deep enough. So I've had to pay to get more wood made up for the desks because I was trying to do everything in a rush. So
Did you say desk chairs or deck chairs?
Deck chairs.
Yeah, just deck chairs scattered around old Brighton kind of seafront deck chairs.
I picked some up cheap in the home base sale.
Yeah, relaxed vibes in your studio.
Very, very. So that actually it's interesting because the whole lower ground floor is just sand. So
just a big sand pit,
a couple of palm trees. But yeah, so that's why I'm covered in paint, and I've been the unit's cold as well, so because I haven't got a heater installed, so I've been working.
Do you take my advice on the heaters? Have you got the oil radiators in?
Right, I did buy an oil radiator, a Dragon Pro 4, which I thought sounded pretty cool, and it was very hot. It was very hot if you were directly above it. But because there was no fan, and because it's a 9-meter high ceiling or something, the hot air just literally just goes straight up and then just sits in the top of the ceiling, and you go, oh, cool.
If it's fully insulated though, isn't it? So I think the thing with those. The way the oil... Sorry, this is a photography podcast, and we're talking about the physics of an oil heat radiator. Brought to you by... I'm trying to think of a radiator brand then, but...
I don't know. DeLonghi. That's who I had.
In my head, I'm just thinking of that Alan Partridge episode where he goes to talk at the fireplace convention. But the thing with an oil radiator... Oh, I can't hear you. You've muted yourself.
Okay. Well, do you know what? I'm actually quite glad I muted myself there because I did a
Alan Partridge
joke, which actually probably shouldn't go out on radio.
So he oil radiators. If you have them on low, like constantly kind of topping up, and the residual level of heat should eventually kind of level out, basically, in your studio.
Yeah. Do you know the trouble is,
it takes a few days.
It takes a few days.
Yeah.
Days. Yeah. No.
Well, so we use them in our studio, and we've got like 3 or 4 of them. And
how much do you pay in electricity?
We don't. It's all covered.
Right. That's why you could have 18 oil-filled heaters for what it actually matters.
The point with an oil-filled radiator is it heats up the oil, and the oil maintains that heat, so it's quite efficient. And therefore, the actual electricity it's using is far less than if it was heating water.
Sure. No, I totally get the physics of it. But when I plugged it in and was watching the wheels go on my fuse board, and kind of going, "Ooh, I think that might be quite expensive." And then I did the maths. Then I bought myself a diesel generator.
Right.
So I need to at some point create a mount for that to go on the outside and pipe in the hot air through the wall somehow. I know.
Your green credentials have gone down drastically.
Well, it's very efficient. Is what I'm trying to. It's just much cheaper to do it that way than the electricity. And so electricity's got to come from somewhere, right?
It's true. Yep.
So yeah, the studio's coming together. It is getting there, but it's just exhausting. There's so much to do, and I'd completely forgotten about it. Obviously it was a completely empty unit, like an industrial unit. So I've had to put everything in, including the mezzanine and and all sorts. So
it'll be worth it in the end.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. When it's done, you'll have to come down and we can do a recording there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. We've got some new blood in our studio. We've got another guy moving in, because we constantly have there's 6 of us sharing a studio, and there's always photographers who kind of moving on or deciding that they don't want to have a studio anymore, and then other people are desperate for one. So every 2 years or so, we kind of shake things up. So I'm excited about that because it's always good to have some new blood.
That's good. Did I also see that you've put a little daylight setup in your studio?
Yeah, we rejigged kind of the room around a bit. Much to the annoyance of one of the photographers who said it's totally ruined the feng shui. But we now have north facing windows in there that are frosted, and the glass itself isn't frosted, but you can quite easily kind of frost glass with a film cover, and it's amazing what a difference that then makes to the light and the quality of light coming through it.
Oh, I bet.
And we were able to basically put in one of the kind of 135, the shorter colorama lengths in there and mount that up on a roller system. So I'm quite excited because now we've got 2 sections, one where you can shoot daylight and one where you can shoot with lights. So yeah, but I
think that sounds like a really good idea. How deep is the window space?
Probably big enough to get kind of a half body shot in on daylight, without kind of too, you've not got a huge amount of space to move back. But it's the thing with daylight is what is quite nice is obviously you can just cut the light and then use bounce and negative fill and stuff rather than actually having to fit lights in.
Right.
So yeah, but it's interesting actually because it reminds me. So at the weekend, I was very fortunate to get invited to go to a thing called the Camera Club, which, considering I've lived in London for 20 years now, I'd never heard of. It was quite surprising to basically stumble across this place. I can show you the little pamphlet.
Since 1895?
1885.
Oh, right, wow.
So this is a little spot which is kind of hidden away in Kennington. A kind of nearest tube stop is Kennington Oval kind of area. Kennington's like a lovely little part of London, just south of, for people who aren't from London, just south of the kind of Houses of Parliament, so on the south side of the river and a little bit west. And it's been going since 1885, not in the same building. It's kind of been elsewhere. It was originally kind of a members club for photographers, and any professional photographer in London would have been a member of the Camera Club. And previously had places on Pall Mall, so it's moved around and had quite a prestigious background. And then I believe kind of in the latter half of the 20th century, it moved to being where the old Photographers Gallery was, which I'm not sure if you ever remember, but before the Photographers Gallery moved up to being behind Oxford Circus, it used to be in Leicester Square, or close to Leicester Square.
Oh, right, okay.
And the Camera Club was next door. And I believe that in the kind of 80s, they had a little bit of a kind of crisis of funding, and they ended up auctioning off a lot of their archive, but they had some amazing work in their archive, and it actually produced them a lot more money than they thought they were going to get. Some of the photographers who were members at the time decided to throw some of their own money into the kitty, and they ended up buying this building. So now they've had this amazing 4-story building, as I said, near Kennington, and it houses 2 studios, and I think 4 dark rooms, one of which has a colour enlarger in it, and a little gallery space downstairs. And yeah, I just went along. They do coffee mornings, like once a month, and kind of anyone's welcome, I think, to go along. But if you become a member, so I think it's £120 a year, like standard membership. For students, it's 60, and for over 65s, it's 75. And with that, you get to rent the studios and use the dark rooms for an additional cost. But I think the dark rooms were £7 an hour, which is really reasonable for a dark room in London. And the studios were different prices, but the maximum was like £20 an hour for the larger studio.
Really?
Yeah. So that's with if you pay your membership of 120 quid annually, and for a studio in that location in London, it's not the world's most high end studio, but it's a big space. And what was really cool is they've got for the larger studio, they've got large colorama with enough space either side to really kind of stack your lights. They've got lights there. They had about six Bowens lights on the go with various modifiers if you don't have your own kit. But what was also really cool is the back wall was all windows, which you could black out. And then there was a big domed skylight on one side that had a retractable blackout blind. So you could kind of, press a little button and the electric blind would go up and you had this beautiful like daylight diffused light coming in.
Oh, cool.
So it was actually, because that studio is at the top of the building and was an extension that was put onto the building. So I was really impressed. And it was one of our listeners, actually, Dan Backman, so shout out to Dan, who showed us round and kind of introduced us to some of the people that were going. Yeah, they've got like ongoing little exhibitions for members.
Oh, that's nice.
It was a really cool space.
Where can people find out more about this?
So if you go to their Instagram is just instagram.com/cameraclubuk. And if you just put in the cameraclub.co.uk, you can go to their website. Their address is Bowden Street in Kennington. But yeah, I'd urge people who, especially if you're a student, a full-time student, that's a really good deal on membership, but also to have access to a studio like that relatively central in London for that price is, I think, well worth supporting, because the whole club is obviously a non-for-profit. It's supported by volunteers. So
there's a little makeup room.
Yeah, so the studio at the top has its own makeup room and own ensuite bathroom and shower,
Wow.
So that's pretty good.
That's cool. I like the look of both of these studios.
What I was most impressed by was the dark rooms, because they've got this it's big central communal area, and then off of that are 4 separate dark rooms. They've got film drying cabinets for when you process when you first develop your film and you need to hang your negs up. They've got the processing cupboards that you can use. They've got all of the sinks all plumbed in, obviously, and various timers and enlargers and big, very large scale enlargers as well. So you can do some pretty big prints in there.
Right.
It was just really nice to see a fully functioning darkroom like that kind of central in London that anyone could go in and rent.
Well, also they've got a digital suite.
Yeah.
With
a printer,
which is what, £7 an hour.
Yeah.
And it's got loads of 2 scanners, a large format printer, a light box mount cutter.
Yeah. I think those kind of things are really good. If people get involved and people are interested, they're constantly looking for new blood. They're looking for kind of people to come along and get involved. And I think it's the type of place where there's not, the membership's probably not massive, but if you were to become a member, you could probably use the facilities as much as you needed to. It's not like you're going to be stuck waiting in a queue for these things. So
no,
I'd urge people to, if and again, it's a bit like this podcast, right? It's a way of bringing people together in the community. So being part of something like that is a really nice way of meeting other people and sharing knowledge, which I think is always beneficial in our line of work, which is quite a solitary profession.
It is.
So shout out to them.
You think our job will always be like this, like solitary?
No, because the computer overlords will cast us down a mine.
Yes, I guess we could just end up chatting to them for company.
Yeah. Talking about social thing, though, the other thing we should mention this week is previous friend of the show has launched their app, and it's now live. We've both been on it for a while, but doing beta testing. But it is now out in the world, and that is the Foto app, which is
welcome to the great wide world. Foto, Foto.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. I mean, that's it's nice. What episode was it that we had? Oh, I have to look this up now. This is terrible. This should be on the tip of my tongue. I should know exactly what episode it was. But we did an episode that you can check out with Michael Howard back in episode 15. There we go. So if you want to listen,
was it 15? 15?
Yeah.
Wow, that was a while back, wasn't it?
Might have been 15 of series 2. So 30.
We'll link to it on the show notes.
Back when we did series. So yeah, that's worth checking out, because Michael talked all about kind of what Photo is about, what his plans for the future were, and it's now officially launched. So you can get it in the App Store, you can get it in Google Play, and it's by no means finished yet. Like, they've still got loads of stuff planned for it, and loads of improvements that they want to make, and features that they want to include. There's a whole portfolio feature that they are bringing in for kind of tiered membership systems. I think so. If you go in as a pro member, you can kind of get access to this portfolio feature where you can kind of pin a portfolio, I think, to your profile, and it displays slightly differently. But I think they're very open to ideas and feedback at this stage, because they're just keen to produce an app that really serves the photographic community in a way that, you know, Instagram did at some point in its history before it started to concentrate maybe more on video and
Reels.
being social media rather than a kind of a photo-led app. So yeah, that's really worth people checking out, and that can just be found if you just put FOTO app in. I'm sure that will come up pretty quick.
Yeah, quickly. It was episode 45.
Oh, right. Well, our system's out then, isn't it?
Yeah, we need to update that.
There we go.
And if people want to find you on that,
I am same as my Instagram, so I'm just at Greg Fennell, FUNNELL. Whereas you, on the other hand, went on MySpace, didn't you?
I did. If you listen back to episode 45, I joke about being able to get at Tom, and I did. I got photoapp.co/Tom, which I don't know why. It just made me really, really happy. But I also don't post any work there, so I that is for me is a bit of a it's a bit of a separate from my work thing. I just post up just random shots from my daily camera, and it's really nice to do it. I forget every now and then. But the time I do spend in the app is actually enjoyable, as opposed to maybe some that are less so.
Yeah, and I think the thing about starting again with something like that is you can really curate who you follow, because I'm sure, you know, we've both had it where you're following who you're following on social media kind of balloons and bloats out, and there'll be people that you're following that aren't necessarily photographers, but you're interested in their lives, and that's great, but it kind of then dilutes your feed if you're going to look on your feed for kind of visual stimulation or visual inspiration. And so it's nice to have a photo platform where it's purely about, you know, following photographers' work that you like, so you can get a sense of you can get inspired by what you're seeing.
Yep. No, it's great. Well, listen, let's talk about a bit of community, because, and I'm not going to be there, but the photography show is coming up, right?
Yeah.
Now, for years and years and years, I have talked at the photography show and have been going to it since it was focused on imaging. And I think I first went when I was 18 or 19. Right. Maybe with a friend from uni. We went down from Sheffield to Birmingham, and it was great. I kind of feel like it maybe dripped off a bit towards the end of Focus on Imaging, and then got bought out by Future, and then got rebranded as the photography show. But I've been going pretty much every year of my career, and this is one of the first times that I won't be there or speaking, but I believe you're going.
Yes, and this is one of the first years I will be going. I think I went to it once, I think, at the NEC. And yeah, I think the main reason for me going this year is partly because of the show, and we've got a little merry band of patrons who are kind of grouped together. We're all going to go on the same day, or the ones of us that can make it. So if you are planning to go to the photography show, we are looking to be going on the I have to get this right now, 10th of March, which is a Monday. So if you were there on the 10th of March and you fancy coming up and saying hello, please do so. And maybe we can, I'll give a shout out to the people that come say hello on the show. Well, that'll probably scare people away.
But yeah, they're a friendly bunch, so go and say hello.
Yeah. I'll be traipsing along and checking out some of the kit that's on offer and seeing what's what really. Like I think I've tended not to go, I guess, in the past just because, well, because I think it's partly because it's always been elsewhere in the country and now it's in London, and so it's kind of a bit easier.
Well, it's in London this year, Birmingham next year, London this year, Birmingham. Yeah. I think that's how they're doing it. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think it's a bad idea.
No, I think it's good. Keep it kind of moving around the country is always good, because otherwise everything can become a bit too London centric. But at the same time, it's nice to kind of dip in and out. So yeah, be interested to see what's on show. I'm not really. I'm going to try and keep my wallet in my pocket.
I really want to go and see the XT52. You seen this?
XT52, no.
It's Aperture's brightest light that they've just...
Oh, yes.
Huge, great thing.
The behemoth.
Absolute monster. But it does look like it would light up this northern hemisphere.
Space, yeah.
Yeah. But that looks cool. I mean, there's loads of like nice stuff out and about. The thing for me I would like to see is there's loads of like really cheap, good cinema lenses or like little compact ones. I've got my eye on the Cook S3s, I think it is. The S3 minis.
Right.
But
are they cheap? Cook lenses?
Well, no. I think they're...
I don't think anyone's described a Cook lens as being cheap.
Well, hang on. What are they? They are currently the SP3s. Oh, no. That's actually a little bit more than I write.
How much is it, Tom?
I don't know why I thought they were a bit cheaper than that. It's 15,400 plus VAT for a 5-lens set.
Okay.
They do look cool though.
Yeah, and I mean they are Cook lenses, so
and they are Cook look. You get the Cook look, etc. But the there's loads of other stuff like there's the Sumira C's, which are getting kind of like a bit of a good rep at the minute. Then there's the DZO Film Optics, and they've done, for the life of me I can't remember the line of primes that they've done there. But there's loads of these kind of cheaper cine lenses coming out, which is obviously quite a nice thing to see. Whether I'll get some, trying to buy less kit. So if this was me 5 years ago, I'd have these.
Yeah.
And then be crying every night.
I mean, one thing there's a few photography shows this year. One thing I think you're looking forward to is the launch of the new Fuji, right?
Right. So
although you can't say, well, you're looking forward to it, but because we don't really know much about it yet. So,
well, I could tell you the rumors, right? So the rumors are that Fuji are going to. So obviously the X100 line has been hugely successful. Like you cannot currently get an X100 for love nor money, and if you are paying money, you're paying probably £200 or £300 for a second-hand one, and you're paying £200 or £300 more than the list price. Right? Have you seen this?
For which one?
For the X100 V1 Zix.
Oh wow!
And so because like if you look at you've got one. Yeah, if you look at them up now, because the supply is so limited, they're selling for above list.
Yeah, this is what happened with the last ones as well.
Yeah,
they became super popular, even though they were just about to be superseded.
But it's.
I think I sold mine for more than I paid for it, which is unheard of with the digital camera.
I know, but I just think it's mad, isn't it? But I totally get it. But there's a rumour on the rumour mill, which the rumour mill has been quite busy this year, but the rumour mill is spinning and it's saying that potentially in March, Fuji might release a GFX version of the X100. So it would be a GFX sensor, which currently we would expect to be 100, because that seems to be what all the GFX cameras are currently running. It would be a fixed 28mm f4 lens, which then obviously translates to, don't let me get this wrong, 35mm in 35mm terms. Is that right?
I don't actually know.
But on a bigger sensor, it goes the other way, right?
Right, okay.
So
the only thing with this is that it's rumored not to have IBIS. because they wanted to keep the body small. Because it's supposed, I think the body size is meant to be around the size of the X Pro cameras, which is
even more exciting.
Yes,
right?
But without the IBIS f4, you could argue, okay, it's not going to be the fastest of cameras.
Yes, but
especially
F4,
with a larger sensor, you're more likely to get camera shake than you
F4 isn't the same T value as an F4 on
a 35mm.
A 35mm, right? I can't. Again, I can never remember the conversion, but F4 I think becomes 3.2 or 2.8.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So it's not. Again, we're not talking crazy speed, but you'd allow a lack of speed because sensors are obviously so good in ISO, but also you don't want a really big lens on this thing.
Yeah, and if you look at, say, something like the Mamiya 7, like a film rangefinder, that's medium format sized film, obviously, so similar to the sensor size that we're talking about, and
F4
also
lens?
the lenses are f4s. Yeah, so you're basically getting that in a digital package.
And I would love if it came in smaller than my R6 with the 35mm, because the problem is I love that camera, but I can't put it in a coat pocket, or it just swings around when it's on my strap.
Get bigger coats, mate.
I'm in 3XL coats. They don't really come
but
bigger.
You've got tiny pockets.
Well, I've got tiny hands. So, but the trouble is I just really would love just like a fixed lens little thing that I could just slip in, and the X100's not for me. I've owned the
thing with the X100 is they can be
four.
Fiddly. Like the buttons can be a bit fiddly.
Dude, my hands are too big, and it to me. Do you know what? Also, I really hate the lack of any sort of feedback when you take the shot.
Yeah,
that doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah, that's why I love the X Pro line, because they have a mechanical shutter as well as an electronic,
and you can feel it.
The bonus that you could then counter that with is that because on the X100 it's a leaf shutter, you can get really high speed flash sync, which is quite cool when that you've also got a built-in ND on that, so you can even ratchet that up further. So you can do some insane stuff with off-camera flash on those cameras.
Oh, I bet. And I've never used off-camera flash, so I'm excited to try it.
So
no, it's cool. I'm not really buying any more cameras, but that is one that has genuinely that has genuinely been one that's piqued my interest.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I told you that I've gone toe to toe with Leica?
Is this about them refusing to give you a brass camera or something?
I emailed them and said, listen, is there any chance you could make me a one-off with brass top and bottom plates? And they basically said, it's not really how it works, mate. And I was like, oh, go on, please. And so basically it looks like it's a hard no.
Could you get rid of that red dot and just replace it with a TB?
Yeah, they weren't game. To be fair, they were very polite and very they weren't at all condescending about it, which I thought they might be. But yeah, the guys at Leica here in the UK, I think, would have got my email and gone, the cheek on this guy.
Yeah. Well, there's rumours with the new M body having an electronic viewfinder, or at least them offering an M body with an electronic viewfinder, which I think has kind of split people, because
I'd be down for that.
I think I would be as well. To be honest with you, if it was a good enough viewfinder, I'd be tempted to have an old school what do you call them?
Diopters.
Hot shoe mounted hot shoe. Is it a diopter that you would then have?
I thought they were diopters. No, it's what is it?
The Visoflex used to make them, and you put it in the hot shoe, and you get your frame lines up through that. So you could then give yourself like an optical viewfinder add-on, if you see what I mean, but then use the EVF actually inside the camera's own viewfinder. I think definitely there's an appeal for people that have maybe their eyesight's not quite as what it used to be, because obviously those cameras are all manual focus, and the fact that you could then focus and punch in would be good for people. The fact that you could have exposure simulation would probably be quite a bonus for some people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think the jury's out on it. My worry would be, and one of my pet peeves for my M10 is the startup time is already quite slow, and if you're then relying on, so with the, someone pointed this out to me the other day, and I've not even ever really clocked it, but the frame lines on an M10 are electronic, so they only appear when the camera's turned on. Whereas in previous models, they were in the glass, or they were not electronic, basically. So you could still be framing up as the camera's kind of getting up to speed, so to speak. But with the M10, there is quite a significant delay between turning the camera from fully off to on.
How long does it take to get started up?
About 3.5 minutes.
But that's like what Reds
feel like that.
But that's what like Reds used to be like on the old days of Reds.
Yeah, but for a camera whose whole shtick is like the decisive moment, you're like, yeah, mate, it's gone. It's gone. You were asleep.
That was last week. Yeah, that's not. It's
not massive, but I think, compared to
that would
other digital cameras that are half the price, it is slow. And you think for a camera that's at that level and aimed at the level it's at, etc., 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 you just expect it to be a bit faster.
That would actually bother me, I think, especially considering, like you say, they're meant to be the decisive moment camera, right? You can't, and also, if I'm right, the battery life on most of them is not phenomenal. Is the battery life better?
I've never had a problem with it with the M10. I mean, the batteries are expensive. You're looking at like £100 a battery.
I don't think that's expensive, right? But like, that's just how much genuine, high quality batteries cost, right?
Yeah.
Like Canon have just bought out a new one.
But I guess the thing is, like, because I've also got the M6, which is, you just click the shutter. There's no turning it on. I mean, I don't even have a battery in mine, like, because I'm shooting manual anyway. I'm not necessarily using the internal meter,
right?
So it's.
Yes, because also I guess that battery would, for the meter would just last forever, right? Like it's.
Well, it would. Mine has the problem with the M6 is there is an actual off switch on the dial, and quite often I would just forget to turn it off. So then the battery goes, and that's why
it doesn't have like an auto off.
I don't think so.
Just keeps active, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what though? I won't lie to you, Greg. If they bought out an M11D with an EVF and brass top and bottom plates, signed, sealed, delivered tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with the D. Obviously, doesn't have a screen on the back, so having an EVF in it really does then suddenly mean that you can, at least, if you needed to, you could play back the images and just be looking through the viewfinder to look at them if you really wanted to check. But at the same time, you don't have the distraction of having a screen on the back.
I guess also the argument would be that I guess they've created the M11D for the purists.
Yeah.
And so you're not then going to have a model created for the
purists. You don't need to worry about the purists.
Well, I do get it. I totally get it. And it's just, but the reason they came back to me and talked about the plates and they said that we're no longer using brass was because they said the customer feedback said that they wanted lighter cameras.
Right.
And I was like, sure, I get that. But it just makes it like everything else. I always thought with the Leicas that they had that something that was different. And I think actually a weird big part of that for me was the brass and the weight. So we'll see if they ever come back to it. But listen, if you guys are listening, just, M11D.
Two cameras, please.
No, M11D, brass top and bottom, and with an EVF, and I'd be sold. Might even take two. I won't. Yeah. I'll just have one, but still. I could give one to you for all the hypothetical in this scenario. But yeah, so it's. I go back to the Fuji. I did see an extra part of the rumor. Sorry, still got this cough that I simply can't get rid of. A part of the rumor is that it might be 100 megapixels sensor, and then on the front there might be a frame lever.
Yes.
So it then will automatically crop to 35, 50, 75, 100 or 85 or whatever, or 90. And I was like, actually, that'd be cool.
Well, it's taking a leaf out of the Q3, isn't it? The Leica Q3.
Does the Q3 have that?
Yeah, so the Q line of Leicas are all fixed lens, and then you crop with you can crop in. So basically you...
Oh, no, trust me, Greg. Where is mine? Is it here?
Your paperweight.
My Q2 paperweight. My saddest camera story ever.
You threw it in a lake.
No, I didn't throw it in a lake. I tripped trying to avoid some dog mess, and then I fell into a lake because I slipped on a route. I was out location scouting, and I think I've told this story before, and I literally slipped trying to avoid it, and it was my favourite camera ever, and then accidentally binned it and ended up, about 2 feet in this lake. So not only, to be fair, I did manage to avoid the dog mess.
I'd be tempted to deconstruct it, seeing as it's just a paperweight. I'd be tempted to see if there was a way that you could totally dismantle it and just, I don't know, turn the lenses into a monocle.
A monocle. I mean, the thing is, I've just put it away. Where is this thing? For people who've not held one, they are actually quite lovely. But the trouble is I'm not very good with taking things apart, and I quite like it as is. As it's quite a nice little. Do you know what I should do? I should have it at the studio as a proper paperweight.
Yeah,
because maybe if somebody ever broke in, they'd nab the Leica that was there on the side. Oh, actually, that's not a bad idea.
Bait.
Yeah, camera bait. Because they're not going to take any of my stands or anything like that. But, the Leica camera that's just sat on the side.
Yeah,
maybe.
So tell us about your haul of new stands, actually.
Oh, right. Okay. Listen, first off, I have to do a big shout out so I've known the guys at Avenger now for few years and always really got on with them. I've been involved in the Foto Rapid Flags launch, which we've talked about on the show, and they behind the scenes we talk a lot about making products that would benefit photographers and things like that, because obviously Avenger historically a cine line, but we use loads of their stuff from C stands to double wind ups and things like that, and they make some really amazing and beautifully crafted kit, right? It's all comes out of Italy, and it's just really, really nice stuff. It's Europe's answer to, I guess, Matthews. And so the guys at Avenger are amazing, and I've been friends with them for years. And I told them I was creating a studio, and they were like, "We'll send you some stuff," and they did. So, and a huge thank you. They've sent me a wind up. They've sent me some C stands, a couple of flags, some floppies, and I genuinely now feel like it's the best kitted out studio ever. But that wasn't all. I got a bit carried away, and I was like, I'm actually going to make an order from you guys. So there's a super boom, another wind up, some more C stands, and basically it's just going to be
a room of stands.
Basically a room of stands. I don't know if there'll be any room to take the photos, but there will be tons of Avenger stuff. So
the super boom, how high does the super boom go?
Well, the super boom goes as high as the stand you put it on.
Right. Okay. So that's just a fitting that goes on a.
Yeah, it's a junior fitting. So the mega boom that you've probably used on some bigger jobs.
Right. Yeah.
The one that extends. The super boom has the pan. It has the what do they call it? Oar.
Yes, or
roll.
Yaw,
or and yaw. No, hang on, yaw. That's it. Yeah. So it has the yaw, and then it also has pan and tilt.
Right. Okay.
So, no, hang on. Is it yaw and tilt? I think. Anyway, it's got controls at the back of it with little joysticks, so you can spin it to make the light go up and down, and you can do that to make the light rotate.
Right.
But it's a fixed 3 meter length.
So does that make the super better than mega?
No. It goes mega, super, and then regular.
Okay.
But the super boom.
That's like a Starbucks rating, isn't it?
It is a little bit.
Super to mega to regular.
They asked me what my name was when I made the order, so I'm half expecting someone to just randomly turn up and be like, "Super boom for Tom." But yeah, the Avenger kit's amazing. Like I said, they very kindly gave me some stuff to get me started for the studio, and now I've made a huge order just because I've used the Avenger stuff my entire career. I've always loved it. What I love about it is this is where I get really nerdy about it. There's always things for photographers that are almost perfect, right? And so I needed some stands that would fit in my Think Tank Production Manager 40, right? And so I found these Avenger stands, and I was like, this actually is perfect. They've got the square sections on the legs, because I prefer the square legs to the cylindrical legs.
Okay.
I love the Avenger handles.
Right.
I just think they just are way easier. They're big, they're chunky, they're way easier to tighten and over tighten sometimes, because I, really hammer it. But then everything like grip heads just fit just naturally on the stand because they're a proper baby pin at the top.
Yeah.
Things like that. And I found this stand, I think it was is it either the A305B or the A0035B? Can't remember which one it is. It's basically a baby, it's like their baby stand, travel stand. But it had this long section in the middle.
We'll link to this in the show notes.
Yeah, please. But I thought, hang on a minute. It's only about 4 centimeters or 5 centimeters too long. What if I chop a section out of that middle bit? It'll be perfect to then fit in the production manager. Yeah. So I got a pipe cutter. You ever seen one of these?
Does it kind of like go round the outside of the...
Yeah, it goes round the outside of the tube.
Yeah.
And you clamp it on, you spin it, clamp it a bit tighter, spin it again, clamp it a bit tighter, and then you just basically keep going until it just goes bling.
Pop. Yeah.
And you get the perfect cut.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, the tube's obviously solid. It's like an aluminium tube. So I just did it. And obviously you have to be very careful because you have to do it on every section.
Yeah.
To get the whole stand length down.
Yeah.
And you just got to be, you kind of got to know what you're doing really with it. And so I took out a big, maybe 6 inches of this thing, and it fits perfectly in the production manager case. So now I have properly solid stands that aren't that heavy that now fit in my rolling production manager case. Wow. So for my small editorials, I am now able to quite happily take, this Avenger stand, hang a camera bag on it as a counterweight, use a grip arm with a softbox on the end, and then just move it all around like that. Rather than, before on an editorial, I'd have to use, quite lightweight stands.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a dream, really.
You need to be chewing their ear off then and telling them that they need to make a version that's specifically for that camera bag. Because there are a lot of photographers that use the Logistics 40.
Yeah, it's a great case. It's properly the build on it's brilliant. I really like it.
This is always the thing with editorial shoots, isn't it? Like I put a picture up the other day of just rolling out for an editorial shoot, and somebody commented about the kit that I was taking, because normally I would take the Logistics for most shoots these days where I'm traveling by vehicle.
When you say Logistics, do you mean the Logistics Manager 30 or the Production Manager 40?
Production Manager 40 is the one that I have.
Right.
Which I can fit my Manfrotto stands in. And a few of the brollies, can't take the extra large Pro Photo brolly, but it will take the large.
Yeah.
It's a great bag. But on editorials, I tend to just take a much smaller Think Tank Airport Security. And sometimes I'll load that with both lights and cameras, depending on how many lights I'm taking, and then just have a Manfrotto tripod bag for my stands and modifiers.
Right.
So that I can kind of keep it all. Because the thing is, I used to wear like a backpack, then have the rolling bag, then have the stand bag, and that's fine. But after a while, if you're slogging around town, especially if you're jumping on and off the tube and what have you, you need to be kind of agile. And the thing with editorial shoots is sometimes it just makes more sense for time and for budget to not be, driving and having to pay for parking or getting taxis everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
So having kind of lightweight kit was always something that was made the most sense, especially if you were doing multiple shoots, in a week or even in a day. And when I first started out and started to use lighting, that's why I used speed lights, because they were so great for just having a small kind of kit that you could get away with taking on public transport. And as the kit's got bigger, it's this constant struggle to try and find a way to not overpack for jobs.
Yeah, and also I think as you get more experienced, you're able to do more with less, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I've been looking at. I have my editorial kit is 4 B10 plus or B10X plus heads, right, with stands and modifiers for each one. It's quite a heavy bag.
Yeah.
But actually, I was kind of thinking about this the other day, and I went back through 2024, and I went back through the shoots, and I was like, I could probably do with swapping 2 of those B10X Plus heads out for 2 of the little A2s.
Yeah.
You know, the really light ones?
Yeah.
Because actually, if they're ever used as clips on an editorial, that's probably fine power-wise.
Yeah. So I use the B10s, 2 B10s and then 2 B10 pluses, so that you've got the larger lights, the B10 pluses, and then the B10s are kind of almost half the size of them.
Yep.
And quite often then, if I'm going on an editorial shoot and I know that I can get away with using like probably two lights, I will just take the B10s, which is a much smaller package, and then maybe, you know, an A10, like one of the kind of on-camera flashes that you can.
Oh, do you have one?
I do, and it's useful for certain situations. I don't use it all the time. I'm not like massively in love with it. I think it could be designed better.
Yeah, but it's not really designed for what you're using it for.
Well, you don't know what I'm using it for.
Are you shooting weddings?
No, but I occasionally shoot with it on camera. So I will shoot using it as an on-camera flash. I will sometimes, but I want the ability to then also be using it off camera if I need to, or kind of on a CTL cord. It's the size of it and the shape of it. I don't know. It just, considering it's basically it's similar to a speed light, and that's what it's designed to work like. It's just a bit, just I don't know. There's just small things about it that are kind of annoying.
But
so often the case.
A10's the older version, right?
Yeah.
So have they fixed it in the latest version?
I haven't checked. I don't think the form factor's changed much, but I'd be interested to see the ones that you're talking about, the little ones that you're...
Well, I remember seeing at the photography show last year, actually, on the AJ stand, they had a couple of the A2s, and it's the size of a Coke can. Like genuinely the size of a Coke can, and you could screw it onto like to like one of those like the 244 arms from Manfrotto. You can clamp it onto stuff. You can have it drop down. It has the magnetic front, so you can click little grids onto it. And in my head, I'm going, oh, actually, that sounds...
Yeah.
It sounds kind of... Yeah, super flexibility. Plus also, there might be, you know, every now and then there'll be like little editorials that I need to do that have to be like ultra run and gun and interior only.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of going, well, a little flash like that, if I'm just shooting in someone's office, not trying to overpower the sun or anything like that. Sorry.
That's a part of the problem with the jobs is so often you just don't know what you're going to face when you get on set, you know, on location. Well, the job where someone had commented about my loadout for it, I had all of that stuff with me. I didn't use any of it. I shot it all natural light. And I'm always searching for those pockets of interesting light, which you get, and it happened to be a good sunny day, and there was light bouncing in off and it was actually, I was shooting on the wrong side of the building for it to benefit until the light hit a particular window on another building and bounced through and created a really interesting shaft of light, which lasted less than 5 minutes.
Right.
And I couldn't predict that was going to happen, but it happened, and you just kind of make the most of it. You work with it, and we got like a killer kind of portrait out of it. But it was then gone again, and there was no way of replicating it. So you need to have the lights in your armory in case you know that doesn't happen. But at the same time,
well, it's your get out of jail free card, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you have everything in your case should you need it. Hopefully, you don't. But if you don't have it, you will need it.
The other danger is you can end up over relying on the stuff. What I find is sometimes you kind of, if you take a load of stuff, you're like, I'm going to use this because I've got it with me. And sometimes you end up, you can overcomplicate things where you're just like, well, actually, this option was just as good.
I think I used to. I think I used to do that, but I don't know if I do that so much anymore, because I think, again, experience kicks in and you go, well, if I'm going to set this up, that'll take an extra few minutes. That'll put us behind, so I'll get less time with the subject. What is more important, a clip light or more time with the subject? Well, it'll be more time with the subject. I won't put that in. Can I fake it some other way? Probably yes, and stuff like that. So, but it's, I mean, the problem is, photographers, we are chronic overpackers. I just think always to our detriment, because our spines. I used to be 7'4". So before I started photography, although actually, do you want to hear it? Do you want to hear a funny story? So in my, I won't show you my passport, but in my old passport, because I keep all. I'm sure you keep your old passports as well, right? In my old passport, I'd been issued it when I was 18, I think, and so you could see before freelance. And then a US visa was issued 4 years in, 8 years in, and then I think another. There was another one, and you could see the passage of time through my eyes and passport pictures, because I was just like, 3 years of freelancing, 5 years, 8 years of freelancing, and now I don't even look. Although in my current US visa passport, and I've got beef actually. What's the company called? I've got a receipt here. Foto Me. They're a company that make photo booths.
Right.
It's a shame they don't. Their system. You have to get your head in between the things. Now, I'm not saying I've got a big head, but I'm a big dude in these tiny little photo booths, and you can no longer make the seat go down.
Do you not know a photographer that could take your headshot?
Dude, I was just in such a rush. I wasn't even thinking straight. So I was just like, I'll just go and get them done at a machine in Sainsbury's. It'll be fine. And so I sat on the thing, and every attempt failed. And so
just got your chin in.
I had to go all the way back against the wall. And so have I got one? Is that it? Here we go. My visa picture.
For listeners, here's a picture of Tom looking like he has got something inserted in it.
Absolutely horrendous, because I'm pushed all the way back against the back wall of the machine trying to get my head in between these markers.
There's a certain look of surprise in your eyes, which is...
Well, it's a sad thing, when you look back at the your parents' passports or old passports from the 30s, the 50s, the 70s, the 90s. They all had that like old school photo booth, boom, with the flash on and they would develop them there and then.
Yeah.
And there was something timeless about it.
Yeah.
I don't think, Greg. Now listen,
you're going to be looking back on that.
I very much doubt I'm going to be looking back on this and going like, timeless.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This absolute era-defining portrait photography.
I have to say, I mean, I'm such a cheapskate that the last time I had to do get a passport portrait done, I just did it in the studio and then worked out the exact sizes it all needs to be and just sent it off and printed off just sheets and sheets of this stuff, because for visa applications, for having spare passport photos in your passport wallet is super useful when you're traveling, just because
100%.
Sometimes you just need to like some silly little application will require a passport photo.
Mm-hmm.
So having loads of spares is good to have, and you can just print them off in a massive grid. So you basically get like 30 on one page, and then you don't need to think about it for 5 years, 10 years.
See, that, listeners, is the mark of a smart man. And what I just showed you was the smart of a not so smart man. So, and that's how we run the show.
And on that bombshell.
Well, listen, that does kind of feel like a natural ending point.
Well, we've got an absolute belter of an episode coming out. Our next episode is with Josh K. Jackson, street photographer extraordinaire. I'm really excited. Josh was awesome. He gave us loads of really good insights into his working practice, his ways of thinking about the craft, and his, I guess his methodology. So I'm excited for that to come out, and that's going to be the one that comes out after this one.
Yep.
In the meantime, I guess we should say that, if listeners have any questions, please contact the show, email us, or you can find us on Instagram at Instagram.com/xnegative.
You find us on YouTube at Exposed Negative, And you can find Greg on Instagram at Greg Fennell. And then you can find me at tombarnes.com, DOTCOM. We also run a WhatsApp group for the show, which now is uncontrollably it's uncontrollably vibrant, which is a lovely place to be. So yeah, if you do want to support the show, you can sign up to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/exposed negative, and come support the show there. You can send us a one-off donation if you want to just buy us a beer or a coffee. And I think that's everything. You might notice we've got a new website. Yes. Or you might not. The other website shit the bed, so we've had to rebuild a new one, but it looks very smart.
It wasn't we, Tom.
It was not.
It was you.
It was me. Yeah, I don't know how, but I did something and destroyed the website. But it is now fixed. And yeah, I think everything else with the show's pretty good. As ever, if you have any suggestions or anything like that, I know Greg's just said this, but please do reach out to us. We love feedback, positive and negative. And just we do this for you guys. This is not something we do for ourselves. We want to make it as useful as we can for you guys. So please just let us know, and we'll do our best to help.
We'll see you on the next one. Ta-ta.